here with Marco, who's been working in visual effects and animation throughout the film industry, working on some of Hollywood's biggest titles. I'm going to be talking to Marco about how he got to start in the industry and how young people can follow in his path. So you've had quite the journey from the Rhondda to Hollywood, but what first sparked your interest to work in visual effects?
I was 30 years old. I was unemployed. I had a mortgage and 2 kids, and my wife was a teacher. And as part of her teaching, she visited a college in Glamorgan, and she'd seen a animation course there that she thought I would really like. So I went back to college there, and I'm sitting there with all these kids, incredibly talented kids they just got these huge portfolios of the most amazing work, and I tell you, I nearly quit right there and then that first day. But I stuck it through, and something I discovered was, I had this tenacity that I didn't want to fail. I was going to make it work no matter what. And I had a realization very quickly that if you do something that you really love, it doesn't feel like work. People pay you to do a hobby almost. Straight out of college, I got a job with Framestore, the company I'm actually back with now, where I went and worked on the Emmy-winning Walking with Dinosaurs series. And yeah, like I say, that won an Emmy, and next thing you know, I've got Spielberg's company knocking, saying, can you come over to America? And here I am. I've been working as an animation supervisor for a lot of the big companies here ever since.
Well, that's really good to hear, because I think it's important to have a career that you enjoy as well. So knowing that you enjoy what you do as well is really important.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't become a career then; it becomes a hobby. And I still can't believe people pay me to do what I really enjoy doing.
So Marco is now going to talk us through some footage, breaking down the process of building visual effects from scratch to the finished product.
This is going to be fun. What I chose to show you first, as I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite projects was the Walking the Dinosaurs movie. That's a movie that I got direct animation and was very, very involved with the whole process. So what I'm showing you here is a little sneak peek of some of the stuff that I would have to sit in a cinema with all my team and review and give them notes. So this sequence here is the pinnacle in the middle of the movie where 2 rival dinosaurs come together in a big fight. Everything in this movie sort of pivoted around this one shot. And for that reason, we really sort of went to town and took a lot of time to put detail in there, which, quite often doesn't get seen, but, we spent a lot of time actually working on that. You'll see our guy here has feathers on him, there's snow. So, there are effects in this shot, but what we're specifically looking at in this shot is the ripple that's on the skin of the dinosaurs and their muscles, how their muscles tense when they collide. So you can see in this shot the way all the muscles tense up, there are ripples. So when it hits the scapula, the shoulder blades, really that tensing of the muscles that happen over the scapula should fire ripples going the other way. So we got all these mishmash of things, which thankfully this shot was a slow motion shot, which is nice. And then it's back and forth then with the animators, and it's kind of like choreographing a fight. We want to say, okay, the big guy's going to get the better of the little guy here, but the plucky little guy is going to come back. The big guy's going to lose his footing, and the little guy's going to get the better of him. You can see the little guy looking, I'm going to move, and he smashes into that tree, and he loses it a little bit. You see, okay, the little guy's got the upper hand now, so he's starting to beat the big guy. You see what's going through the big guy's mind is, I'm not going to have this. He starts pushing back. So it's a very choreographed fight sequence. We don't just let the animators loose on this sort of thing. We will start first of all by choreographing stuff with very, very simple shapes. So these dinosaurs won't move. They will literally be like plastic models almost, and it's almost like, somebody's going, boom, boom, knocking these things together. That's the first thing we do, because once we've got these guys going at each other like this, then we can start setting the cameras. Do we want a locked off camera? Do we want the camera moving? What do we want to see from this? Then we throw it over to layout. Okay, layout will then start putting simple animation in there. They'll start putting backgrounds. They'll set the depth of the camera. They'll start focusing on things that we want to see, and then, using smoke and mirrors to hide things that we don't want to see. Once layout is approved, that then comes over to animation. And that's where we start to get stuck in with all, the actual movement of these things, making sure that they've got weight, making sure that when a body goes forward, that it looks like something's pushing it forward and it's not just moving forward on its own. Once we've finalized animation, then we go to look at the skin simulations, the muscles that get fired underneath and how the skin moves on top. And as I mentioned, all the ripples that happen as secondary effects. Once that's done, we put skin on them. So we will start rendering them with lights and with textures on the skin, so that they've got the scales. All the scales should stretch and move correctly. So then it'll get rendered. It'll get composited, which is put in layer upon layer upon layer upon layer to compile the shot together. And then when we're all happy with that and it's all working correctly, it then gets sent off to be graded. So there are a lot of processes involved here, and I haven't even gone over the process of creating these dinosaurs in the first place. So that's just a shot creation process.
That's really interesting, because I didn't even realize that's how much goes into it. There's so much detail, and I didn't even realize when you're watching the film you don't even think about those sort of things, do you?
I would say there was probably 80% of what we put into these shots nobody notices. The big difference is people notice if it's not there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Sometimes when you watch something and you go, oh, that's CG, that's animated,
Yeah.
But you're supposed to try to make something look real, and that's where all the effort goes. Honestly, it takes, I would say, 90% of the time that we spend animating something, 90%, right? Most of it is spent just polishing these little things. We can create the shots in animation very quickly, 10% of the time to create the shots, but 90% of the time to sort of polish and just tweak these little things that will make it go from being, fake to being something that people believe.
One day, it was my turn to protect my family and to lead the herd on the greatest adventure of our time.
So, for the young people watching this, what subjects would you advise them to work at whilst at school that might help them get into visual effects, and what personal skills are key to working in the film industry?
The thing is, you have to realize it's not just the film industry now. We've got a very broad and diverse media system. So we're now looking at AR, VR. There's games, of course, theme park rides, and they all fall into the gamut of visual effects. I've worked in all of them, TV, of course, as well. And I've worked throughout all these different areas. So I think it's important to not just think, okay, I'm doing this just for film, because those jobs are often rare, and you can hone these skills, in other areas. So don't just think film, think a broader sort of spectrum on that. Art, obviously, draw, sketch all the time, and, play video games. Look at AR and VR, and look at all these other experiences that are out there, and see where you can affect that. But it really is the obvious things like art, and it does help if you're computer literate, I will admit.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I've definitely learned a lot, because it's not a part of the film industry I knew much about before. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
You're very welcome. Thank you.